Apparently, people don't know how to say words. Not complicated words like Wazenkevich, but basic words. Let's break this down. So, recently, actually no, this is not a recent thing. People have been saying words wrong since words were invented. Like ever since the Phoenicians, the people that made what we now call the alphabet, just basically symbols that mean sounds, where you can construct words and look at it and be like, oh, this is probably how you sound out the word. Brilliant. Just brilliant. People have been saying words wrong ever since we screwed up that system. Seriously, how many different sounds do we have for the letter A? We have A, ah, ah. Beautiful system. You know what we did? We came in and we just completely screwed it up. Because of this, people say words are wrong. I'd like to take just a little bit to talk about the words that people say wrong that particularly anger me and to make it better. So, let's get right into it. This needs to be reconciled, right? I'm the shepherd. I'm going to lead the sheep back to the pasture of good pronunciation of certain words. The first word that we're going to talk about is a word for this brownish, yellowish, gooey snack that you can eat it by itself. It goes very well in other things. It's in Snickers and in, what else is this thing in? This thing does not go in coffee.
Caramel?
No, it does not.
Are we talking about caramel?
Yeah, we're talking about caramel.
I just have
Is it caramel or caramel? Caramel? Camel.
It is not camel. That is a yellowish brownish thing, but it is an animal that stores a lot of water and has 1 or 2 humps depending on the model that you choose. No, we're talking about caramel. Now, caramel, whatever that thing is, some people call it caramel. Not very many people call it caramel. So the people that are like, oh, it's a caramel thing. No, like everybody calls it caramel. I actually did a bit of research on this, which, you know, I typically do not like doing. Did it bump it again? It bumped it again. Which I typically do not like doing research, but I did it just because I love you guys. Turns out, the color is caramel, and the food is caramel. Which is a completely useless bit of information, because I'm still going to call the food and the color caramel. Because you're never going to see me call this thing a caramel apple. Absolutely not. If anybody calls it a caramel apple, they're technically right, but they're wrong. Why would you add another syllable when you don't need one? Caramel? Are you trying to sound smart when you're not? I'm fancy. Look at me. I can... What is this?
Diet Mountain Dew and grape juice.
This is Diet Mountain Dew and grape juice.
Yes, sir.
That's sacrilegious. We're going to talk about this later. So if you want to say caramel, I guess you can, and I guess you're going to be right, but know that I will silently judge you. And don't ever call this thing a caramel apple. Because I won't silently judge you anymore. I will very verbally judge you and probably physically punch you in the face. So,
I don't think you can do that.
Legally, no. But I mean, imagine this. Like, you punch somebody in the face for calling it a caramel apple, and like the cop comes up to you like, what's the situation here? And they're like, this guy just randomly punched me in the face when I was trying to order a caramel apple. And then the cop comes and just punches him in the face because he called it a caramel apple. That's not what it's called. It's a caramel apple. You know, sometimes ignorance is bliss. I wish I would not have looked up this fact. Now we're going to get on to something else. There's this one beverage that is particularly popular among middle-aged mothers. It's this drink. It's not quite flavored, but it is carbonated, so it gives them kind of that carbon fix without the calories. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's this drink right here. Now, everyone that I know, except for one individual, calls this drink LaCroix. But apparently one of my friends that speaks French says, nah, it's LaCroix. And I said, no. There's only one reason it would ever be called LaCroix, and that's if you're in France and not talking about the drink. This is how LaCroix got started. So apparently LaCroix is French for the cross. I want to imagine that LaCroix came to existence a little bit like this. So you got your branch manager sitting here, right, of this brand new fangled drink, this sparkling something that's barely flavored because they needed to save money and not quite make Mountain Dew, but it has to be healthy. So, I don't know. The guy who invented the drink called it the Cross, and he's sitting there with his board. He's like, well, we have this drink here. It's called the Cross. It's not selling very well. And so his board's sitting there like, okay, so what's your target market? This is a drink for the whole family to enjoy. It's middle-aged moms, isn't it? No, this is a drink for the whole family. Totally is middle-aged moms. 89% of our sales are middle-aged moms. Yeah, it's middle-aged moms. So they find out that middle-aged moms are the ones drinking this. And so they're like, what do middle-aged moms really want out of a completely tasteless and completely pointless beverage? I know. They want to feel slightly exotic. Why not? So this guy, he's calling up the German department, he's calling up the Australian department, he's calling up the Canadians, all seeing if they have a more creative name. So eventually he calls up the guy in France who does his marketing or something. Hey, rep in France. He's like, yeah. We got this drink called the Croix. We don't know what it is over there. Like, we're trying to get it more exotic so we can sell it. Well, what's the Croix in French? The Croix? Perfect. Everyone, I have an idea. We're gonna call the drink La Croix. Yeah, boss. If we print that on a can, nobody knows gonna how to say La Croix. You realize how weird diphthongs are in French? No, I didn't look into it very much. Yeah, La Croix is gonna be like 4 letters. So instead, they went with the American version and called it LaCroix. Because the only reason anybody drinks LaCroix instead of water is to point out to people that it's pronounced LaCroix when they don't know how to pronounce the name of the drink. And that's how it came into existence. So if you call it LaCroix, props to you for knowing French. I don't care. It's called LaCroix. Next up on the list, you know those noodles that you can get at the store? You can get a big old, like, plastic bowl of them for 39 cents, or you can get a pack of 12 of them in chicken or beef flavor for like $2.12. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these noodles. And these are near and dear to my heart. As a college student, I love eating me some salty noodles. But apparently, there is some form of discourse as to how this thing is pronounced. And I'm here to tell you that there is one way to pronounce it correctly. These are ramen noodles. These are not ramen noodles. These are not noodles. These are ramen noodles. If you pronounce them any other way, you are doing it just to make other people upset. And that is only okay if you're making YouTube videos. I didn't think I'd have to explain this one. I thought everyone agreed that R-A-M-E-N spelled ramen. But some people think that they need a long A because they're fancy and, ooh, look, it's ramen noodles. That's phonetically correct. Well, you're phonetically a jerkwad. If you call it ramen noodles, just convert. Call it ramen! Top ramen! This is really good. So, if you call it ramen noodles, you can walk into the ocean. I don't care. Like, call it ramen noodles. Next thing that people mispronounce frequently. You know that little chain of islands that's just southeast of the US, just west of Mexico? You all probably think I'm talking about the Bahamas, but I'm not. I'm talking about a chain of islands spelled C-A-R-I-B-B-E-A-N. That's right. I can't say it because then you're going to know how I think it's pronounced. A lot of you have this idea in mind. You're probably thinking Caribbean. There's these series of movies with Johnny Depp starring as Jack Sparrow called Pirates of the
Caribbean.
False. Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean. I actually don't have an answer on this one because the only time I ever call it Caribbean is when I'm talking about those 5 movies? Like, you can't just say the Caribbean islands. That sounds wrong. Like, we're like, yeah, I tour the Caribbean. But if you say Pirates of the Caribbean, you're like, ugh, I feel weird in my own skin. Here's something that's going to mess you up. Think about the first time you heard it pronounced Pirates of the Caribbean. I can't think of the thing that actually reminded me that it's Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, I don't think I ever heard it said in a promo. Nothing. I just filled in my mind as Pirates of the Caribbean. And apparently everyone else in the world, too. Now listen, I know what you might be saying. Like, Brady Kane. Don't get so hung up on people pronouncing things wrong. Like, it's just tomato, right? No! Oh, it's just potato, right? No! I have never heard anybody pronounce these 2 foods potato or tomato. Ever in my life. And I've spoken to British people. Don't tell it, it's not a British thing. They call it tomato or potato. They don't call it potato. Nobody uses the long A. Potato is not a thing. It's potato. Because nobody calls it anything other than potato. So I just realized that using the long A is potato, but I don't think I can get that worked up again. There is no tomato. There is no potato. Those don't exist. They're not foods. There's nothing that upsets me more than our calendar. 2 particular dates on our calendar make me more upset than anything else. The first is an entire month. The month of February. Look at the word. Sound it out. It's technically pronounced February, which is stupid! Why would we make the word wrong? You realize how long, for how large a portion of my life I spelled February wrong? Because I spelled it like it sounded. F-E-B-U-R-A-R-Y. That's not right. F-E-B-U-A-R-Y. Because that's how it sounds. And we're supposed to make words based off of how they sound. And if you would tell me, well, Brady, maybe we're just pronouncing it wrong. Maybe it's actually February. I'm going to tell you that you're actually a moron. Yep, there are 28 days in February. No! It's like somebody spelled the name wrong on February's birth certificate. And we've just kind of rolled with it for the rest of human history. It's been February and like, oh, I accidentally added like 4 extra letters. The other part of our calendar that just absolutely grinds my gears is Wednesday. Look at the word. Sound it out. Tell me you get Wednesday from that. You know how long it took me to find out that Wednesday was spelled like Wednesday? Wednesday should be W-E-N-E-S-D-A-Y. That's how it should be. Wednesday? The same guy who wrote February probably wrote Wednesday. It's February, it's Wednesday, we messed it up! What's that, Bill? We're getting the data that people have actually spelled it Wednesday with a W-H-E-N? My goodness. Also, Bill, what in the world is an H doing in when? Now that we're on this topic, why does when have an H? Why do we shove letters in places where letters don't belong? Listen, everyone, I wrote this episode thinking that, there's no way that I can get this worked up about it. I was so wrong. I never realized how much this genuinely made me angry when people pronounce things wrong. Phoenicians, you did something great with phonetics. Actually, you know what, Phoenicians? That PH at the beginning of your name, did you really just not like F? Or what? I don't know if there's a life lesson to take away from this other than pronounce words correctly, but, do. Pronounce words correctly. Be a responsible human being, and, thanks for watching. Stay salty. And don't even get me started on crayons and crayons! It's crayon!